Have you ever felt manipulated, confused, or drained after interacting with someone? Maybe you found yourself questioning your own reality, your worth, or even your decisions. If so, you're not alone. Many of us have been victims of subtle psychological tricks that leave us feeling powerless, and it's an exhausting cycle. But here's the good news. Understanding these manipulation tactics can help you not only protect yourself, but also use them to your advantage in the right situations. In this video, I'm going to reveal 12 powerful psychological hacks that will make your life easier. By the end of this, you'll have the tools to take control, make people respect you, and avoid falling into the mental traps set by others. Let's get started. Number 12. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a manipulation tactic where someone tries to make you doubt your own reality or memory. The person doing this might deny things they've said or done, twist the facts, or tell you that you're imagining things. Over time, this makes you feel unsure of your thoughts, making you question what's true and what's not. Actually, gaslighting is often used by individuals who want to control others by keeping them off balance. It's especially common in toxic relationships. Romantic, professional, or even familial. The gaslighter thrives on making you doubt yourself, which gives them more power in the relationship. They create a reality where only their version of events seems valid, making you feel dependent on their perspective. Let's say your boss blames you for missing an important deadline, but you remember clearly that they told you the deadline was different. When you confront them, they insist that you're mistaken, and even make you feel like you're being forgetful. This leads to you questioning your own memory. So, how can you defend yourself in this situation? To protect yourself from gaslighting, always trust your instincts and gather evidence when possible. In this case, keeping written notes or emails as a reference can protect you from manipulation. If your boss continues to insist you're wrong, you can calmly pull up the email that shows the correct deadline. Having a firm grasp on reality through documented facts allows you to stand your ground confidently. Number 11. Love bombing. Love bombing is when someone showers you with excessive attention, compliments, and affection in a short amount of time. This creates an emotional high that can make you feel special and valued. But beware, this intense affection is often a manipulation tactic used to make you emotionally dependent on the person. Actually, people who use love bombing often do it to gain quick emotional control over you. They create a whirlwind romance or friendship, making you feel like you've found the perfect person. But this overwhelming affection is designed to make you more vulnerable to their control. Over time, the affection may turn into control or manipulation, leaving you feeling trapped. For example, you've just met someone, and within a week, they're already talking about a future together, telling you they've never felt this way before, and texting you constantly. While the attention feels flattering, something seems a bit too fast. So in such a situation, recognize that true relationships, whether romantic or platonic, grow at a steady pace. If someone is love bombing you, take a step back and set boundaries. Politely slow things down by saying, "I think we're moving too fast. Let's take our time to get to know each other." This gives you room to assess their true intentions and avoid falling into an emotionally manipulative situation. For example, if your partner showers you with affection and gifts early in the relationship but suddenly becomes distant, take note of this behavior. Love bombing is often a manipulation tactic. To protect yourself, set boundaries early on and don't get swept up in excessive flattery. Pay attention to consistency over time rather than grand gestures. Number 10. The silent treatment. The silent treatment is when someone intentionally ignores or refuses to communicate with you as a way to punish or control you. By withdrawing communication, they create emotional discomfort to make you anxious or desperate for their attention. Actually, the silent treatment is a passive-aggressive form of control. It's not about solving a conflict or taking a break. It's a power move to make you feel like you need to work harder to get their approval. The person giving you the silent treatment enjoys seeing you become distressed and may continue until you apologize or give in to their demands. even if you weren't in the wrong. Let's say you had a minor disagreement with a close friend, and instead of resolving the issue, they stop replying to your texts and calls. Days go by, and you start feeling guilty, questioning if you did something wrong, even though the disagreement was minor. So the best way to handle the silent treatment is to remain calm and not let it affect your self-esteem. Instead of chasing after the person or begging for their attention, take a moment to reflect on the situation. When they finally communicate, address the issue by saying, "I noticed you've been silent, and I'd prefer if we could talk through any issues rather than ignoring each other." This shows that you're mature and not willing to play mind games. Suppose if your partner goes silent after an argument, leaving you anxious and confused. Instead of chasing them or feeling guilty, give them space, but calmly express that communication is essential for resolving conflicts. The silent treatment is often a power play. By not reacting emotionally, you show them that silence won't control the situation. Number 9. The mirror trick. The mirror trick involves subtly mimicking someone's body language, tone of voice, or gestures. This builds rapport and makes the other person feel like you're on the same wavelength. People naturally trust those who reflect their behaviors, as it gives them a sense of comfort and understanding. Actually, humans are wired to connect with others who seem similar to them. When you mirror someone, you subconsciously communicate, "I understand you, we're alike." This builds an emotional connection, making the other person more likely to trust and cooperate with you. For example, if you're negotiating a deal with a client, pay attention to how they sit or speak. If they lean forward and speak calmly, mirror their posture after a few moments by leaning in slightly and speaking with the same calmness. This signals that you're engaged and aligned with their mindset. Suppose you want to build a deeper connection with your partner or a new romantic interest. Subtly mirror their body language during conversations. If they lean forward, do the same. If they smile, return the smile. This creates unconscious rapport and makes them feel like you're in sync, increasing their comfort and attraction toward you. Remember, people like those who are like themselves. By reflecting someone's behaviors, you're showing that you're similar to them, which fosters trust and likability. To use this trick effectively, be subtle. Start by observing the other person's behavior, then gradually mirror their gestures, tone, or posture. However, don't overdo it. Being too obvious can backfire, as it may come across as mocking. Also, be aware if someone is mirroring you too much. It might indicate they are trying to influence your decisions. Number 8. Reverse psychology. Reverse psychology involves suggesting the opposite of what you want someone to do, knowing that their natural instinct will be to resist your suggestion and do what you actually want. This tactic works particularly well with people who are stubborn or like to assert their independence. Actually, people don't like feeling controlled or told what to do. When you suggest they can't do something, it activates their need to prove you wrong. They end up doing exactly what you want to assert their autonomy. Suppose you want your friend to help with a project. Instead of asking directly, you say, "You're probably too busy to help me with this. It might be too much work for you." Your friend may respond by saying, "No, I can handle it, and I'm happy to help," because they want to prove that they're capable. So always remember, the best way to get someone to do something is to suggest they can't do it. This quote perfectly sums up the power of reverse psychology. By challenging someone's ability, you tap into their desire to prove you wrong, which can lead them to do exactly what you want. When using reverse psychology, make sure the situation allows for it. If someone is prone to being defensive or independent, this trick works well, but don't use it too often. People will catch on. Also, if you feel that someone is using reverse psychology on you, ask yourself why they're suggesting the opposite of what they actually want. Number 7. Social proof. Social proof is a powerful psychological phenomenon where people look to others for guidance on how to behave. This is especially true in uncertain situations. If everyone is doing something, people assume it must be the right thing to do. Actually, Humans are social creatures, and we often rely on the actions of others to make decisions. If we see a group of people choosing a particular option, we are more likely to follow, believing that the crowd must know best. This behavior taps into our desire for social belonging and fear of missing out, FOMO. Suppose you're trying to convince your colleagues to join a new training program. Instead of directly telling them to sign up, you might say, most of the team has already signed up, and they're really excited about it. This creates social pressure. Your colleagues won't want to be left out if everyone else is participating. Remember this quote: "Where all think alike, no one thinks very much." This quote captures the essence of social proof. While following the crowd can be comforting, it's important to remember that independent thinking is just as valuable. Social proof can be powerful, but we must remain mindful not to blindly follow others. Number 6. Anchoring. Anchoring is a cognitive bias where people rely too heavily on the first piece of information they receive when making decisions. Once this anchor is set, it influences how they perceive everything that follows. This technique is often used in negotiations, pricing, and decision-making. Actually, our brains are wired to latch on to the first number, idea, or piece of information we encounter, and then adjust our thinking around it. For instance, if someone tells you a car is worth $20,000, you'll likely base your negotiations around that price, even if the car is worth much less. Imagine you're negotiating the price of a freelance project. You start by suggesting a high rate, such as $2,000, knowing that the client may counter with a lower offer. Even if they counter, the starting point or the anchor will influence their final offer, which will likely be closer to your initial suggestion than if you'd started at $1,000. In personal situations, anchoring can be useful too. For example, when discussing responsibilities at work, you might frame your expectations by first stating the highest level of responsibility, making anything lower seem more reasonable by comparison. Set the anchor early in a conversation to guide perceptions, whether it's a price, an idea, or a request. To defend yourself, always ask for more information and be mindful of whether the first piece of information is distorting your view. Number 5. The Ben Franklin effect. The Ben Franklin effect is a psychological phenomenon where a person who has already done you a favor is more likely to do you another rather than the other way around. It sounds counterintuitive, but it works because people like to justify their actions, and helping someone makes them believe that they like that person. Actually, when someone helps you, they create a narrative in their mind to justify their behavior. I help them because I like them. This effect leverages cognitive dissonance, where people seek consistency between their actions and beliefs. It's named after Benjamin Franklin, who famously turned a political rival into an ally by asking to borrow a rare book, which led to mutual respect. So, let's say you want to improve your relationship with a colleague. Instead of offering to do them a favor, ask them for a small favor first, like borrowing a book or asking for advice. Once they help you, they are more likely to help you again in the future, and may even develop a positive view of you. The key here is to start small, so they feel invested in you without being overwhelmed. To use this technique, ask for small favors to build rapport and trust. As people do more favors for you, their positive feelings will grow. To defend yourself, be aware when someone is asking for favors as a tactic, and ensure your actions align with your actual feelings. Number 4. The foot in the door technique. The foot in the door technique is a strategy where you get someone to agree to a small request first and then follow up with a larger request. Once they've said yes to the smaller task, they are more likely to say yes to a bigger one, as they want to remain consistent in their actions. Actually, this technique taps into people's desire to appear consistent. Once someone agrees to a small action, they feel committed to helping and are more likely to agree to larger requests, even if they wouldn't have said yes to the bigger request initially. For example, you want your friend to help you move to a new apartment. Instead of asking directly for help with the entire move, start by asking for something smaller, like helping you pack a few boxes or pick out moving supplies. Once they've said yes to the smaller task, they're more likely to agree to the bigger task of helping you move. To use this trick, start with a small, reasonable request that's easy for the person to agree to. Once they're engaged, gradually introduce larger requests. To defend against this, stay mindful of your boundaries. Just because you've agreed to help with something small doesn't mean you're obligated to do more than you're comfortable with. Number 3, framing effect. The framing effect refers to how people react differently depending on how information is presented to them. The same fact can be interpreted positively or negatively based on its frame. It's about whether you emphasize the benefits or the downsides. Actually, humans are influenced by how options are presented, not just by the options themselves. This is why marketing, politics, and media often frame information to evoke specific emotions or behaviors. For example, people are more likely to choose a surgery with a 90% survival rate than one with a 10% mortality rate, even though both are the same. Suppose you're trying to persuade someone to invest in your business idea. Instead of focusing on the risks, which all investments have, frame it positively by highlighting the growth potential and success stories of similar businesses. This positive framing will make your proposal more appealing. Remember, it's not what you say, but how you say it. The framing effect shows us that how you present information can be just as important as the information itself. Imagine you want to spend a night in with your partner instead of going out. Instead of framing it as just staying home, describe it as a relaxing, cozy evening with your favorite snacks and movies. By presenting the same option in a positive light, you're more likely to get an enthusiastic response. When presenting an idea, emphasize the positive outcomes and benefits. Be aware, however, that others may try to manipulate your decisions by framing information in a way that suits their agenda. Always try to reframe situations to see both sides objectively. Number 2, scarcity principle. The scarcity principle is the idea that people place a higher value on things that are scarce or hard to obtain. When something is limited in availability, people feel an increased sense of urgency to act, fearing they might miss out. Actually, this taps into a psychological fear of missing out, FOMO. Whether it's a limited time offer or an exclusive invitation, scarcity makes people want things more because the opportunity feels fleeting or rare. For example, if you're selling a product, emphasizing that it's in limited stock or that a discount will only last for a short time can drive customers to buy more quickly. For example, saying only 5 spots left in the course encourages people to act fast because they don't want to miss the opportunity. There's a powerful saying, people will always want what they can't have. This speaks to the heart of the scarcity principle. When we think something is rare or slipping away, our desire for it intensifies. Suppose your partner is taking your presence for granted. Subtly mention that you won't be available for a while because of work or other commitments. When they sense that your time is limited, they'll likely put in more effort to spend time with you while they still can. So, create a sense of urgency by highlighting the rarity or time-sensitive nature of what you're offering. On the flip side, when you encounter scarcity tactics, take a step back and ask yourself if you really need what's being offered, or if the pressure is making you act irrationally. Number 1, contrast principle. The contrast principle is a psychological effect where people make judgments based on comparisons rather than absolute terms. When two things are presented in sequence, the second one often appears more favorable or unfavorable based on the first. Actually, our brains assess the relative value or attractiveness of options. When we see something extreme first, it makes the subsequent option seem more reasonable or desirable in comparison. This is why sales strategies often involve showing a high-priced item first before presenting a lower-priced one. Imagine you want to go on a vacation with your partner. Start by suggesting a high-end luxury destination that's quite expensive. When your partner reacts to the cost, immediately follow up with a more modest but still enjoyable option. The contrast between the expensive trip and the more affordable one will make the second option seem like a better deal. Remember, comparison is the thief of joy. By first presenting something extravagant, you create a comparison that makes the subsequent option appear more attractive and reasonable. So you can use this technique by framing your request or offer in a way that contrasts it with something more extreme. This can make your actual request seem more appealing. To defend against this, be aware of how comparisons are being used to influence your decisions and evaluate each option on its own merits. So you've just unlocked tools that most people will never understand. But remember, true power comes from control over yourself, not others. Master these psychological tricks, and you'll find that the world bends in your favor. If you're ready for more insights like these, subscribe now and join the ranks of those who take charge of their lives. As they say, a lion doesn't lose sleep over the opinions of sheep. See you at the top.